I never imagined I'd find love in the shadows of sacrifice, a gift that changed everything. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. The air was thick, heavy with fear and grief. I stood there, my heart pounding, as I gazed at the fractured world around me. It felt surreal, like I was trapped in a nightmare. My hands trembled as I reached for my mother's old locket, the one she always wore. The warmth from its metal felt foreign against my cold skin. I was all alone, yet surrounded by whispers. Everyone was there, but no one truly saw me. They were there for her. Their tears fell like rain, but I didn't feel any relief. I could hardly breathe, and why Mother was my everything. She was the glue, the laughter in our home. Now silence loomed like a dense fog. How could the sun still shine outside when my world had dimmed? I looked around at faces I loved but felt so distant from. My best friend Alex, his blue eyes clouded with sorrow, seemed like a shadow of the vibrant person he used to be. The weight of our loss pressed down on us, squeezing every ounce of joy and hope out of the room. But in that silence, something shifted. I caught a glimpse of a figure standing by the door. It was Ethan, someone I never expected to find solace in. He was the new kid, the mysterious one, and he had always kept his distance. Yet in that moment, he stepped forward, his gaze locking onto mine. There was a spark, an unspoken understanding. The tension between us crackled like the static before a storm. Suddenly, the moment shattered. An unexpected cry pierced the air. I turned, my heart racing, my stomach knotting in fear. What was happening? My mind raced. My surroundings blurred, and I felt trapped between grief and the bloom of something new. I didn't know what he would say, or how this connection would change everything. But I felt that this desire to leap into the unknown. To find something beyond the pain, even if it meant risking everything. The room seemed to spin, and time slowed. I remembered the warmth of my mother's voice, guiding me, telling me that love can be found when you least expect it. Would I dare to take that leap? Would I find love in the chaos, or would it all slip away like sand through my fingers? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The moments following my mother's service felt like stepping into a dream I couldn't wake up from. The world around me moved as if on a loop. People murmured their condolences, and I replied with empty words that barely touched the surface of my grief. Alex hovered nearby, his comforting presence a balm to my aching heart, but even he seemed distant, lost in his own sorrow. Ethan lingered in the back, a ghostly figure who flitted between the crowd and remained just out of reach. Despite the heaviness in my chest, I felt an inexplicable pull towards him. What was it about the way he looked at me, as if he understood the depths of my pain? The longing to connect gnawed at me, even while doubt and fear clawed at my resolve. I couldn't risk hurting more, and yet there was a part of me that screamed for connection, a bridge over this chasm of loss. After everyone had left, the house felt like a hollow shell. Shadows danced in every corner, morphing into reminders of what was no longer there. I found myself wandering to the old oak tree in our backyard, the one my mother used to read beneath. Sitting against its sturdy trunk, I closed my eyes, hoping for her voice to guide me once again. "Everything will be all right, my love," I imagined her whispering, her soft laughter echoing in my mind. But silence answered instead, a stark reminder of her absence. A single tear traced a path down my cheek. I was trapped within the walls of my grief, yet longing for something beyond it. When I opened my eyes, I didn't expect to see Ethan standing a few yards away, his expression hesitant but determined, as if he were ready to break through my invisible barrier. "I might know this is a terrible time, but I had to say something," he started, his words stuttered but earnest. "I'm not good with, anything like this, but I want you to know you're not alone. The sincerity in his voice pierced through the fog surrounding me. I felt raw, exposed, like the world had stripped away all my defenses. How can you know that? I asked, the bitterness of my grief creeping into my tone. His eyes softened, and he took a step closer. Because I lost someone too. Not recently, but I remember what it felt like. I remember the weight. You can feel it in the air, can't you? It's heavy. Time seemed to hang, suspended in a delicate balance. I had never opened up about my pain to anyone, let alone a stranger. Yet the vulnerability in his eyes drew me in. Your mother, she was the light, he murmured, offering a sliver of understanding I desperately craved. Was? I echoed, confusion flashing across my face. The revelation struck me hard. I wasn't the only one grappling with loss, but was Ethan's experience the same? The weight of my sorrow collided with a flicker of hope. Maybe I wasn't so alone after all. As we spoke beneath that ancient oak, a part of me began to thaw, the rawness of grief mingling with an unexpected warmth. With tentative words, we shared memories of the people we had loved. Despite the deep sadness that lay between us, laughter erupted at small anecdotes, and for the first time since my mother's passing, I felt lightness slipping in through the cracks of my despair. But just as quickly, reminders of what had been lost crept back in, wresting the moment from me. I soon felt the shadow of anxiety once more, overshadowing my newly kindled connection with Ethan. How could I risk this budding friendship, knowing how grief could tarnish everything it touched? The day faded, dusk wrapping around us in a mantle of deep blues and purples, but as I looked into Ethan's eyes, a crackling tension filled the air. Perhaps this was all been a fleeting moment, an illusion built on shared sorrow. I could still see distances lurking in his gaze, challenges I didn't yet understand. That night, I lay awake, a storm brewing inside me. I couldn't shake the fear of an unsteady future, intertwined with loss and this burgeoning connection. I craved more moments spent with Ethan, his smile, his understanding, but the consequences of heartache felt insurmountable. Just then, my phone buzzed on the nightstand, cutting through the silence. I grabbed it, hoping for a sign of normalcy, but instead found a text from an unknown number. My heart raced as I read the words, delivering a jolt of shock that sent my pulse racing. Your mother had secrets. Meet me if you want the truth. I stared at the screen, disbelief curling my lips into an anxious frown. What truth could possibly remain about a woman so cherished? Could I plunge into another abyss of uncertainty when I was barely surfacing from the first? My heart thudded, torn between the yearning for answers and the dire warning of the deepening shadows surrounding my present. There was much left unspoken, and just as I thought I could grasp a sense of stability, the ground slipped beneath me once more. The next morning felt surreal, the shadows still heavy in my mind from the revelation sent via text. I could hardly process what I had read. What secrets could my mother have had? The very thought unsettled the fragile sense of her that I had clung to since her passing. Yet, curiosity nagged incessantly at my heart, gnawing away at the walls I'd built. As I stared at the sunlight spilling through the window, I knew I couldn't ignore the message. It felt like a tether, a thread pulling me towards something bigger than myself. What if this was my chance to understand my mother better, to find pieces of her that I hadn't truly known? I rolled the idea around in my mind, but fear tangled with the hope. Was digging into her past worth disrupting the comfort of my memories? When a knock broke my reverie, I opened the door to find Alex, his expression a mirror of concern and familiarity. You okay? You look like you've seen a ghost, he said, stepping inside and glancing at my phone that lay poised in my palm. I hesitated before showing him the message. The moment the words left my lips, I regretted them. Someone texted me about Mom. About secrets. The furrow of his brow deepened. What does it say? My heart raced as I recounted the text verbatim. Alex listened intently, his brow tightening with each syllable. When I finished, he remained silent, processing the weight of those words. You've got to be careful, he finally cautioned. People can throw around wild accusations when someone dies. You know how it is with rumors. But what if there is truth? I countered, desperation inching into my voice. What if there's something I don't know? Something that could give me closure? The conflict in his eyes mirrored my own concern, battling with an urge to support me. What do you plan to do? With a heavy heart, I looked beyond the window and into the distance where the world continued unfazed. My life felt suspended like a fragile ornament teetering on a ledge. I don't know, I confessed, my voice quiet but resolute. But I want answers. Then we'll find them together, he said, placing a reassuring hand on my shoulder. There, in that moment, I felt the faintest flicker of hope. I didn't have to tread this dark path alone. With Alex beside me, I found myself stepping into the storm of uncertainty headfirst. Days passed, each dragging along with the weight of indecision clinging to my every thought. As I paced through the remaining mundane moments of my life, I found myself reaching out to Ethan. It felt right to pull him into the fold. Uncertainty felt less daunting with two allies instead of one. Can I tell you something? I asked, meeting his gaze one evening as we shared a quiet moment on the porch. The rainy skies mirrored the tumult within me, droplets softly tapping against the wooden slats. Of course, he said, softly encouraging. I received a text the other day. It's about my mom. I'm going to meet with someone who claims she had secrets, I said, my heart racing as I spoke those words aloud. For a beat, Ethan simply looked at me. His expression was an array of concern, surprise, and something else I couldn't quite decipher. You're going to meet them? He finally asked, his brow raised. I think I have to, I replied, my voice firming even as my insides twisted. I need to know. A flicker of fear crossed his face. It could be dangerous. If this person knows things about your mom, who knows what they want? I swallowed hard, the weight of his words settling into me like stones. All I have left are questions, I said, urgency propelling my resolve. I can't let uncertainty keep me from understanding myself. Ethan pondered for a while before nodding slowly, determination weaving into his features. Then you won't go alone. I'll come with you, he declared, his voice carrying warmth. A rush of gratitude welled inside me. The thought of facing the unknown with someone who understood my depths made the fear less suffocating. Thank you, I whispered, my heart swelling with appreciation. But just as a semblance of hope began to emerge, the impending dread of the meeting loomed large. The message replayed in my mind: my mother had secrets. Was understanding them going to bring me peace, or would it unearth more heartache? The following day, as I walked toward the designated meeting place, an old café reeking of memories and half-cooked dishes, I was resolute. Yet inside, my heartbeat resonated a frantic symphony, echoing my anxiety. As we approached the meeting spot, Ethan's hand brushed mine, grounding me with the warmth of his presence. We found a corner table, waiting, my palms clammy as the minutes crept agonizingly. Finally, a woman entered, a stranger whose eyes held a piercing gaze that could burn through layers of pretense. She looked around before her eyes locked onto mine, a smile creeping across her lips that felt too knowing. Let us talk about your mother, she said, her voice dripping with secrets, and the promise of veils lifted. Panic surged through me, a dragon roaring to life, but I couldn't pull away now. The moment the weight of her words settled, I realized just how truly unprepared I was for what lay ahead. In that instant, the familiar shadows whispered, reminding me that not all truths provide solace, some merely disrupt the fragile peace we cling to in times of loss. My heart raced, catching my breath in a whirlwind of doubt as hope twisted into a haunting uncertainty, and everything I had trusted began to unravel. The café smelled of burnt coffee and stale pastries, an unsettling backdrop to the emotional storm brewing in my chest. The woman Elena settled into the chair across from me, her presence a mixture of warmth and tension. Her eyes held a depth that seemed to beckon me closer while simultaneously warning me to tread lightly. Your mother, she began, her voice low yet filled with an undeniable certainty, was a woman of many facets. I nodded, grappling with the growing knot of emotion tightening around my throat. What do you mean? The question slipped out, raw and unfiltered, like the anxiety flooding my veins. You know bits and pieces, but there's more to uncover, she replied, allowing her gaze to drift momentarily before returning to me. She had connections, people she cared about deeply, but also those from whom she hid her heart. Ethan shifted beside me, his arm brushing my own, grounding me even as I struggled beneath the weight of her words. What kind of connections? He asked, his voice tight with suspicion. Elena met his gaze, her expression as unreadable as ever. It's South, not my place to divulge everything. But understand, you have to be prepared for what you'll find. Some truths have lingering shadows that might reveal more than you bargained for. The air around us thickened, a whirlwind of whispered memories and fragile hopes colliding. My gaze dropped to the chip table, where I traced my fingertips over the wood grain, a silent reminder of the life my mother lived, the life she never fully shared with me. Please, I breathed, desperation weaving through my request. I have to know. Whatever secret she held, I want to learn about it. It can't hurt more than wondering and leaving pieces of her unexamined. A flicker of understanding crossed Elena's face, yet her eyes still harbored something unreadable. Your mother was an artist. She created beautiful things. But she carried a burden, one that never let her rest. I leaned closer, my heart pounding against my ribs. What kind of burden? Loss, regret, she replied, each word a drop of ink in a well of inkiness. Your mother lost a part of herself long before she lost her life. The moments that haunted her were the kind that silenced her light. A cold shiver ran down my spine as her words sunk in. The realization that my mother had struggled beneath the weight of unexpressed sorrow rattled me to the core. But even amidst that revelation, I felt a flicker of compassion ignite, battling against my rising fear. Why are you telling me this? I asked cautiously, gauging her intentions. Because you're brave, she replied, her voice steady, pulling my gaze back to her. Your journey means facing the shadows and, in doing so, illuminating where it once hurt. It's about understanding that our loved ones are not solely defined by their burdens but also by their ability to rise against them. A pause settled, heavy like a stone. My heart swelled with an odd sense of gratitude for this stranger who seemed intricately tied to my mother's past. But the unease nudged my heart again. What do I need to do to uncover these secrets? Where do I start? The urgency in my tone cut through the lingering uncertainty. Elena leaned forward, her voice dropping to a whisper. There's a box in her attic hidden under a loose floorboard. It holds her sketches, truths she never dared to reveal. But be mindful, for what you'll find could alter everything you believe about her. The weight of the world seemed to press down on me as I processed her words. My mother had left a piece of herself behind, hidden away, lying in wait for me to discover it. But what would those revelations mean for the image I had clung to, once stained with love but now painted with unfulfilled promises? I don't know if I'm ready, I admitted, my voice cracking slightly, as I fought against the wave of doubt crashing over me. Then don't rush. Take your time, Elena advised, her voice softening. The shadows can wait. It's the light between them you should seek. We spent the next hour deep in conversation, sharing pieces of my mother's life, the ones I had known and those I had yet to learn. With each tale, threads of hope wove into the fabric of my despair. I began to realize that even in the shadows of my mother's choices, there could lie a profound understanding, a path to embrace not just her story, but my own. As we concluded our meeting, I felt buoyed by an unexplainable resolve. Elena's presence reminded me of the compassion that can flourish even in the midst of darkness. I stepped out of the café with Ethan by my side, our hands brushing together, an unspoken promise of solidarity amidst the uncertainty. Yet, as we walked away, the weight of my decision grew heavier. I knew I would have to confront the truth soon. The secrets hidden in that attic box were not just about my mother. They would inevitably unravel my own identity. What if I discovered things I wasn't ready to face? What if pieces of my past threatened to shatter my understanding of who I was? And as the thought coiled within me, panic surged, entangling me with worry. Would I be prepared for the storm that echoed within that attic, only to find by unveiling my mother's past, I might also unearth the shadows of my own heart? Just then, my phone buzzed, pulling me from my thoughts. A message from an unknown number flashed on the screen. I know what you're looking for. You need to meet me. There's more to your mother's story than you realize. The words jolted through me, a stark reminder that shadows sometimes held more than we could imagine. What awaited me now, and would this lead me further into darkness, or guide me toward the light? As that anxiety gripped my heart, I knew one thing for certain. I was closer to the truth, but the journey ahead was fraught with unknowns, and there was no turning back. The afternoon sun cast a slanted light through the trees as Ethan and I stepped away from the café. I tried to focus on the sound of the world around me, the rustle of leaves, the distant laughter of children playing, the faint hum of conversation from passers-by. But my mind was a brimming well of turmoil, swirling with new possibilities, unanswered questions, and the weight of revelations that seemed to grow heavier with each step. "Are you okay?" Ethan's voice broke through my reverie, his concern etched on his face. I forced a smile, but my mind was elsewhere back at the café, in that little booth. "Just thinking," I murmured, feeling the pulse of uncertainty vibrate in my chest. His fingers interlaced with mine, a small gesture of support that helped alleviate some of the weight. "What about?" How could I explain it all? The dreams I had of my mother, the murky memories of her that seemed to blur and shift with every new piece of information. "I think I have to go to the attic and look for that box," I admitted, the truth spilling from my lips before I could superimpose my usual safeguards around my heart. His brow furrowed with worry. "What if you're not ready? The things you might find could change everything you thought you knew." A chill swept through me at his words. It was as if he'd reached into the depths of my anxiety and pinpointed the very sources of my doubt. "I know," I finally said, my voice barely above a whisper. "But how can I move forward without uncovering the whole truth?" "Maybe the truth can wait," he suggested cautiously. "Maybe you can take some time to distance yourself from the pain before you dive into it." "What if it's all connected?" I asked, my voice gaining strength. "What if the things I uncover could finally help me understand her and myself?" He paused, his hesitance evident, but then nodded slowly. "I just want you to be careful. I don't want you getting lost in the shadows." As we strolled along the street, I suddenly recalled Elena's words about the light between shadows. Perhaps if I discovered whatever was hidden, I could illuminate the parts of my life I had always kept in darkness. Hope fluttered inside me, albeit cautiously. Perhaps learning about my mother's burdens could lead me to a new kind of strength. When we returned home, I found the familiar lingering comfort of my room, the slow shadows of the evening creeping in, bringing both solace and a sense of captivity. The attic loomed above me, a realm where memories of my mother were stored, both beautiful and painful. The message from that unknown number resurfaced in my thoughts, igniting a flicker of fear and curiosity. I sat on the edge of my bed, phone in hand, debating whether or not to respond. What was the worst that could happen? Was there another layer to this story waiting to be unwrapped? Just as I began deep in thought, my phone buzzed again, an incoming call from that same number. My breath hitched as I glanced at Ethan, who was rummaging through his backpack, oblivious to my rising tension. "Answer it," he urged, finally noticing the look on my face. With trembling fingers I pressed accept. A low, raspy voice came through, distorting my sense of reality. "You're about to uncover something monumental," the voice warned. "But understand, some knowledge comes with a price. And your mother's shadows are deeper than you can see." "What do you mean?" I croaked, slick with trepidation. "You say you want to know who she was, what made her break," the voice continued, calm despite the chaos swirling inside me. "But you might not be ready for the truth behind her sacrifices." "Who are you? How do you know about my mother?" "I have my reasons," the voice said, a hint of amusement threading through the tension. "Meet me at the old bookstore on Willow Street. I'll help you find what you're looking for. But remember, be prepared to face what lies in the shadows, because once you see, you cannot unsee." Before I could respond, the line went dead, leaving a resonant silence that buzzed in my ears. Ethan's wide eyes searched mine, brimming with alarm. "What did they say?" "I don't know if I should go," I stammered, feeling the weight of uncertainty closing in. The very thought of stepping deeper into this vortex of secrets sent a surge of anxiety rushing through me. Yet, somewhere in that fear lay an ember of hope, a chance to illuminate the dark places in my story that had long gone unacknowledged. Maybe just for tonight, Ethan suggested softly. You can process everything tomorrow. Just remember to take care of yourself first. You matter, your feelings matter. You don't have to rush into anything. He was right. But even as doubt flickered to life, I felt an insatiable pull drawing me toward that conversation, that truth wrapped in layers of intrigue and the potential for understanding. As we settled for the night, the uncertainty settled into an uneasy tremor. Tomorrow beckoned an invitation to the unknown, and with it a choice: to confront the shadows lingering in the corners of my mother's past, or to walk back into the solace of ignorance. And just as my eyes began to close, consumed by the weight of my indecision, my phone vibrated once more, a new notification illuminating the room in a soft glow. Time is running out. Meet me. You'll find me waiting in the past. My heart raced anew, struggling against the pull of fear and the intoxicating allure of the truth, unsure of which path would lead to salvation or ruin. The morning sunlight streamed through my window, warm and golden, yet it felt distant, almost mocking. I sat up slowly, the events of the previous day swirling through my mind like leaves caught in a whirlwind. The call from the mysterious voice had pulled me into a chasm of dread and intrigue, one that I now felt gravely apprehensive to navigate. But as dawn broke around me, a part of me clung to resilience, to the promise of truth that could untangle the riddles of my past. Ethan was already awake, quietly making breakfast in the kitchen, the familiar sounds of clinking pans oddly soothing. As I stepped out, I caught a glimpse of him focused, his brow furrowed in contemplation as he flipped pancakes, an anchor amidst my tumult. For a moment, I allowed myself to breathe deeply, to immerse in the comforting normalcy of the mundane before diving into the abyss of my impending rendezvous. Morning, he greeted, his face lighting up as he turned toward me, his spirit always radiating warmth. How are you holding up? I wanted to tell him that I feared everything: the uncharted territory ahead, the potential for pain wrapped in promises of understanding, even the specter of my mother's shadows looming closer. Instead, I shrugged lightly and forced a smile, hoping to bury the weight of uncertainty. I hesitated. I'm okay. Just thinking about everything. He paused mid-scoop and set the spatula down, concern flickering across his features. You don't have to rush into anything. Remember what we talked about. Your well-being comes first. His words were a soothing balm, yet deep within me, a storm raged on. Even just saying them thickened the air between us like a delicate fabric straining at the edges. I know, but I feel like I need to do this. It's like there's a part of me that won't be whole until I confront the truth. Ethan stepped closer, reaching for my hand. Just promise me, if it gets too overwhelming, you'll call me. No matter where you are. Okay? Okay, I agreed, grateful for the tether he provided, but unsure how much I could lean on him when the shadows were my own to face. After breakfast, anxiety twisted in my stomach as I prepared to leave. I glanced in the mirror, scrutinizing the reflection staring back. Would she recognize the girl I'd become? Despite the pang of dread, anticipation flickered beneath my skin. There was a stirring deep within, a desire to grasp the fragments of my identity, however fragmented and painful they might be. Stepping outside, I took a deep breath, the sky wide and impossibly blue, teasingly serene. I could feel every step toward the old bookstore amplifying the anxiety coursing through me. It was as if I was walking towards some ancient, unavoidable truth, one that held my mother's legacy and my own future in its hands. The streets began to blur around me, a haze of urban life contrasting sharply with my internal chaos. The bookstore loomed ahead, its sign slightly askew as if neglected, much like the stories stored within. I hesitated at the door, breath shallow, as the bell tinkled softly with my entry. Dust particles danced in the shafts of light filtering through the grimy windows, and a musty scent enveloped me, wrapping me in layers of forgotten tales waiting to be unearthed. Welcome, murmured an unfamiliar voice from the shadows, a figure emerging from behind the stacks. It was a woman, perhaps in her 70s, her silver hair cascading in unruly curls and her faded cardigan hanging loosely around her slim frame. I believe you're looking for something particular? I took a step back, the remnants of the mysterious call echoing in my ears. Who are you? Someone who knows your mother's story better than you think. Come, we have much to discuss, she beckoned, her eyes sparkling with a mix of wisdom and mischief that sent a shiver down my spine. Wait, I stalled, trying to catch my bearings. How do you know her? A bittersweet smile danced on her lips, and she tilted her head, inviting intrigue. The shadows of our past often intertwine. Follow me. It's time you learn about the sacrifices she made, not just for you, but for herself. Every fiber of my being screamed at me to turn away, to flee from this eerie invitation, but a deeper current tethered to my own curiosity pulled me forward. I took a step, then another, allowing the labyrinth of books to enclose me further, each shelf whispering stories of lives lived and lost, including my own. We settled at a small table tucked away in a corner, and she pulled out a faded photo, worn at the edges. This is her, the woman said softly, sliding the picture toward me. I recognized the woman in the image, my mother, her laughter suspended in time, a vibrant energy illuminating her features, untouched by shadows. But she wanted more for you, the woman continued. She wanted to shield you from the deeper truths, even if it meant carrying those burdens alone. My heart raced at the implications cloaked in her words. What do you mean? The weight of my mother's secrets pressed down on me, and anxiety tightened around my throat as I gazed into the depths of the woman's knowing eyes. You have to be prepared, dear. The truth is a double-edged sword. It has the potential to free you, but it can also shatter everything you thought you knew. I didn't, he replied. My heart thudded against my ribs, the anticipation thickening the air as I thought of the stacks, my mother's hidden past nestled in their shadows. Just as I steeled myself to ask more about my mother, a sudden crash shattered the silence, drawing our attention to the entrance. The door burst open, revealing a familiar figure framed against the sunlight. Ethan, his face a palette of fear and urgency that sent a jolt of dread spiraling through me. Leah! He called out, eyes scanning the room before locking onto mine. We need to talk. Now. I opened my mouth to respond, confusion flooding my thoughts. But the woman's hand gripped mine tightly, her eyes reflecting a depth of concern. You must decide quickly, dear. The shadows are closing in, and once you step into them, leaving may not be an option. Ethan's desperate gaze flickered back and forth between us, and as the weight of unspoken truths pressed heavily upon my chest, I realized I was standing at the edge of my past, teetering between the pull of sorely needed answers and the safety of the known. And as I exchanged glances with Ethan, it became painfully clear, whatever waited in the shadows was not just about my mother's past, but also about the future I had envisioned, one that may never come to pass. A heavy silence settled in the bookstore, the air thick with anticipation and uncertainty. I turned back to the woman, who seemed to sense the turmoil rising in my heart. Her grip on my hand remained, both a comfort and a reminder of the gravity of the moment. What do you mean the shadows are closing in? I asked, urgency lacing my voice. Ethan, still poised at the door, moved forward as if he instinctively understood that my world was fracturing at the seams. The truth has its way of revealing itself, she murmured cryptically, her eyes darting to Ethan before returning to me. And sometimes it reveals more than we are prepared to hear. Are you ready for that kind of revelation? Ethan reached my side, placing a steadying hand on my shoulder. Leah, whatever is happening, we can face it together. His voice was a lifeline, steady and firm amidst the storm coursing through me. But as I looked at him, my heart clenched. Would he still feel that way after seeing the truth? I squeezed the woman's hand back, drawing strength from her resolve. Just tell me what I need to know, I urged, desperation clinging to my words. I can't turn back now. Very well, she replied softly. But be warned, shadows often hold what we fear the most. She tilted the faded photograph closer, and I stared into my mother's smiling face as though searching for answers hidden within her features. Your mother didn't just flee from her past, she was escaping something deep, something that followed her even here. And in her escape, something was sacrificed. Every heartbeat echoed in my ears as I tried to process her words. Could understanding what my mother had carried bring clarity, or would it unravel the very fabric of my existence? What did she sacrifice? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper, the weight of the inquiry offering no solace. In seeking to protect you, she left pieces of herself behind, relationships, truths, even love, the woman confessed. But it was more than that. There are secrets intertwined with her past that may still be lurking, seeking to disrupt your own life. Ethan's brow furrowed in concern as he addressed her. You need to tell us everything. Whatever is out there, it can't be allowed to harm her. Ah, but it is not something out there, she replied, her brows knitting together. Sometimes, we are the architects of our own shadows, and they reflect the very choices we make. The tension in the air thickened, and I feared what she meant. My mind raced with scenarios. Had my mother's choices inadvertently placed me in danger? Did the sacrifices lead to consequences that now threatened my future? Suddenly, a shattering sound echoed in the distance, pulling us sharply back into reality. My instincts kicked in, and I turned to Ethan, both panic and worry flooding my senses. What was that? I asked, my voice trembling. He looked at me, the spark in his eyes turning into an ember of dread. It's not safe here. We should leave. But before I could respond, the woman stood abruptly, her demeanor shifting. Listen carefully. You are not just confronting your mother's past, you're stepping into a wider story. There are connections you cannot yet see, threads woven through time, linking you to a fate beyond your understanding. I nodded, swallowing hard as she leaned in closer, the urgency crackling in the air like an electric charge. Trust your instincts, Leah. They are what bind you to the truth. But you must remember, once you unveil these layers, there's no unknowing what you've learned. Ethan surveyed the room, uncertainty etching lines into his face. We can come back, no. The woman's voice sharpened, cutting through the air like glass shattering. This is not a game. If you remain, you risk more than understanding, you risk your lives. Her words wormed their way into my stomach like a twisting vine of fear. I looked between her and Ethan, the churn of emotions dizzying. What lay ahead, and how close were the shadows that threatened to pull me down? Before I could contemplate my next move, the lights flickered, and I felt a shuddering tremor beneath my feet. Now! The woman commanded, her tone boxing me into a decision. Ethan grabbed my hand, and we rushed to the exit. As we burst through the door, the chaos outside unfolded in a nightmarish tableau. People ran in every direction, fear plastered across their faces, a cacophony of shouts erupting into the air. My eyes darted around, searching for signs and understanding of what had erupted, when suddenly I spotted something gleaming in the dirt. A simple silver necklace, glinting in sunlight, familiar yet out of place. Kneeling, I picked it up, recognition flooding my senses as the world spun chaotic around me. It was my mother's necklace, the one that had vanished without explanation years ago. The weight of it in my hand sent a ripple of dread through me, and I realized the shadows were no longer just memories but tangible elements of my life, re-emerging in ways I couldn't comprehend. My heart thundered as urgency mounted inside me. Ethan, I need to go back inside, I cried, torn between the present terror and the lure of unresolved truths. No, he said firmly, his grip tightening around mine, even as the coil of fear tightened in my gut. It's too dangerous. But deep down, the yearning for answers, for connection either with my mother or the fate she tried to escape, eclipsed my fear. The shadows were closing in, and it was time to either confront them or let them consume me entirely. Leah, Ethan started, but I could feel the inevitability break through the barrier. We were standing at a precipice, a split-second decision about to define our futures, when a sudden, bone-chilling scream echoed from within the bookstore. Time froze. This was only the beginning, and the end felt inevitable. Whatever awaited within those walls was about to unfold, dragging secrets I wasn't prepared to face into the light of day, forever altering the course of my life and my relationship with Ethan. Before I knew it, I was moving, propelled by sheer instinct and an aching need for clarity that perhaps didn't even exist. Would the shadows that followed me reveal truths or engulf us both? My mind screamed for certainty, but it was already too late. The descent was imminent. The bookstore stood before us like a fortress, its walls promising protection even as they harbored threatening secrets. The scream echoed again, this time piercing through the din of panic outside, catching my breath mid-gasp. Ethan's firm grip on my hand was the only tether anchoring me to reality. I could sense the fear radiating off him, but resolute determination surged through me, igniting purpose in the face of chaos. "Leah, you don't have to do this," he urged quietly, his voice strained with worry. But deep inside, a fiercer, raw emotion brewed. I needed to find my mother's truths. I needed to understand how her sacrifices had shaped both of our lives. Taking a deep breath, I said, "I have to know what she was trying to protect me from. If the shadows are reconnecting with me, then I owe it to her and myself to face them." But Ethan began, his eyes pleading. "Please." I looked into his eyes, the warmth that had always comforted me now tinged with fear. "If I don't go back, I'll always wonder. We can't let these answers slip away." Before he could process my words, I pulled my hand from his grasp and took a step toward the door we had just exited. An invisible force seemed to tug at me, a magnetic pull urging me to breach the threshold and confront the chaos within. The air grew heavy and electric. The shadows danced along the ground, whispering my name, drumming a rhythm that matched my racing heart. The door creaked ominously as I swung it open, the hinges protesting against my decision. Inside, the bookstore was a stark contrast to the frenzy outside. It was eerily quiet now, a thick atmosphere of tension wrapped around me as I entered. Dust motes swirled in the still air, caught in the dynamic interplay between light and dark. The shelves stood sentinel, shadows pooling in the corners, waiting. It was as if the store itself held its breath, anticipating my next move. I stepped deeper in, the floorboards creaking beneath my weight. The spine of every book seemed to watch me, every volume a witness to the unfolding drama of my life. I felt unmoored as the voices swirled around me, replays of conversations cemented in my childhood echoing in a painful, dissonant symphony. Lia's voice broke through the silence, soft yet haunting. I turned sharply to see the woman standing at the far end, her silhouette outlined in the dimming light. She was a ghostly figure that seemed more like a part of the echoing space than a tangible person. "You must listen carefully. There's little time left." The urgency in her tone sent a shiver down my spine. I nodded, wanting to absorb every word she would impart. Just then, a crack resounded through the bookstore, a line of light erupting from a door I hadn't noticed before. "Follow me," she beckoned, twisting her wrist with a quick motion that confirmed a deeper power within her. I hesitated, looking back toward the entrance, where I imagined Ethan standing, warring with concern for my safety and an unyielding urge to protect me. "Ethan," I whispered under my breath, wishing he could feel the gravity of my choice, the weight of the answers I sought. "Go," the woman urged again, sensing my uncertainty. "This path demands you confront the truths that bind your past to the present. Only there can you find what was sacrificed." With my heart pounding like a war drum, I stepped through the door she had opened, entering a room that felt almost sacred. Scattered artifacts adorned shelves along the walls, old photographs, family trinkets, and remnants of unspoken histories. In its center stood a table, illuminated by an otherworldly light that beckoned me closer. As I approached, I caught sight of a small, weathered journal resting under a glass case, the cover embossed with a familiar floral pattern. My breath hitched. This was my mother's design. I reached for it, and as my fingers brushed against the glass, the journal trembled slightly, as if aware of my touch. "Leah, understand this," the woman's voice was firmly resonant amidst the fragile silence. "Each of these items reveals a part of your mother's sacrifice. But they also hold a peril. Unraveling these threads could pull you into something vast, something dark." "And I must?" I asked, feeling the gravity of those words. "What if I lose myself in this? Knowledge is both a gift and a burden." She stepped closer, her eyes holding an ancient wisdom. "But without it, the shadows will drag you under. Only in understanding can you reclaim your essence, redefine your love, and confront the demons your mother faced." I nodded slowly, steeling myself as I pulled the journal from the case. The weight of it felt familiar and heavy, an anchor pulling me toward the depths of my mother's world. Just as I opened it, a horrific crash erupted in the distance, shaking the very foundation of the bookstore. Startled, I dropped the journal, but its pages fluttered open as if a gust were carrying them beyond my reach. Time slowed as I watched the words spill forth, whispering secrets through the air, echoes of despair, resilience, and a chilling truth hidden between the lines of my mother's life. Ethan's face flooded my thoughts, his deep compassion mingling with the dread curling tightly in my stomach. Would he stand by me as the past unfurled? Would he still love me, love the woman formed in her shadow's wake? Before I could respond, the door burst open, a shadowy figure spilling into the room, throwing my heart into a frenzy once more. The figure bent low, obscured by darkness but carrying a profound familiarity. "Leah!" a voice called, laced with urgency and fear. My heart climbed to my throat as I strained for a clearer view. "Ethan?" But just as I turned to confirm the identity of the figure, the lights flickered violently, plunging the room into darkness and shrouding me in uncertainty. The journal slipped from my grasp, the pages swirling as if caught in an ephemeral whirlpool, and then, silencing everything, came a single, urgent whisper that rang true amidst the chaos. "Trust the shadows, but beware what they reveal." Panic gnawed at my resolve. In that moment, cloaked in darkness with fear tightening its fierce grip around me, I realized the only light I could hold on to was the flickering flame of hope burning within, urging me forward into this abyss I could no longer escape. As I stood on the edge of revelation, I wondered, what would I uncover? And would Ethan be there to guide me back from the brink? The silence that followed was all-consuming, a veil thick enough to stifle even the loudest of heartbeats. I strained my eyes, desperate for a sign of Ethan, for any familiarity in the thick darkness that had engulfed the room. The pulse of time felt cruelly stretched as I waded through the uncertain waves of my emotions, fear, confusion, but most of all, an urgency to know. The journal lay just beyond my reach, whispering to me secrets that it longed to divulge. I took a tentative step toward it, my instincts honed and my breath shallow. Each word etched on those pages threatened to spill forth like a torrent, exposing emotions I had spent a lifetime avoiding. "Leah!" The voice from the shadows shattered the enveloping stillness again, more insistent this time, a lifeline cast into the deepest waters of my uncertainty. "Where are you?" It was Ethan, his voice struggling against the oppressive hush, filled with fear that knotted around my heart. "Here," I called, infused with newfound strength as I felt my way toward his voice. With each careful movement, the weight of my mother's journal pressed down, a tangible reminder of the path I had chosen. The darkness around me felt alive, swirling, as if resentful of my determination to step back into light. A flicker of hope ignited when Ethan's silhouette materialized at the edge of my vision, his body outlining the doorway he had burst through. My heart raced, relief flooding through me like a bomb. He rushed toward me, breathing heavily as he brushed my cheek with a trembling palm. "Thank God you're okay." His eyes, usually so pools of warmth, now darker with panic, searched my face for assurance. "When that crash happened I thought I'm okay," I assured him. "But I need to understand what's in here." I pointed to the open journal, and he turned to look, eyes widening with recognition. "This was your mother's?" he breathed, stepping closer, drawn not only by the contents but by the history it wrapped around us. "Leah, we don't have to do this. You don't. It doesn't have to be your burden to bear." Yet it was already too late. "It is my burden as much as it is a part of her," I replied quietly. "I need to know what she sacrificed for me, what risks she took. There are answers in here, Ethan. It feels like the key to everything." For a moment, his brow furrowed, wrestling with his feelings, before he took a deep breath and nodded, the tension easing ever so slightly. "Then let us face it together," he murmured, resolute and determined. As he took my hand, a rush of warmth bloomed within me, a reminder that even stark shadows could not hide the light of unwavering support. It began as a whisper, fragile and flickering in the back of my mind, nagging at my curiosity. The journal's pages were filled with sketches of places, some familiar, others foreign. Maps leading to events I had only heard of in the hushed tones of my childhood. Particularly drawn into one illustration, I found a lonely seaside cliff embedded with lines that seemed to evoke longing and despair. This cliff, I murmured, feeling an undeniable pull. It's like I've been here before. Ethan leaned closer to inspect the drawing. Or you've always wanted to be. Maybe it's something more, I mused, tracing the contours with my finger, an unexplainable connection urging me to delve deeper. A visceral urge tugged at me, awakening memories once dulled by time and grief. The air shifted subtly, the shadows around us seeming to lean in, as though they too wanted to hear the secrets. You have to be careful, Leah, Ethan said, his voice low, tinged with concern. Unraveling these truths might unleash something you can't contain. A tremor of doubt gnawed at me, but it mingled with unyielding determination. What if this was indeed the key not just to my mother's past, but to my own identity? What if confronting these truths is the only way to stop the shadows from closing in? The only way to heal? His grip tightened on my wrist, and I could feel the warmth of his spirit fortifying my resolve. I'll be here, right by your side, he assured me softly, his eyes searching mine. That simple promise filled me with the strength I needed, casting away the helplessness that threatened to swallow me whole. With a wavering breath, I turned the page. As I did, the room filled with a surge of energy that vibrated in the air around us, and a passage illuminated words from my mother herself, scrawled in a familiar, hurried hand. We cannot escape the past. It chains us, binds us to the shadows we dread. But in confronting the pain, we may find the light we thought lost. The words tumbled into my heart like a rope leading me toward the truth. What had my mother uncovered? What sacrifices had she made, and at what cost? And it was then that the light flickered again, brighter this time, volumes of books rattling on the shelves, reverberating with echoes of their untold stories. We were no longer merely observers. We were a part of this living history about to unfold. As the winds of change built momentum, ready to whisk away the fog of uncertainty, another loud crash reverberated through the store, jolting us back to reality, each sound carrying an ominous significance that churned uneasily in the pit of my stomach. What was that? Ethan's voice was sharp with alarm, his eyes darting nervously toward the doorway. Before I could answer, a cold jolt coursed through the space as the very ground beneath us trembled. A body of darkness seemed to pulse at the edge, swirling into a looming shape, a shadowy entity twisting and extending toward us, its voice low and menacing. Leah, it whispered, chillingly familiar, but echoing with an unsettling depth. You have stepped too far. You know too much. As I stood frozen, the boundaries of reality surrounding me began to blur. And just like that, the journal slipped from my fingers again, the pages flinging open to obscure the truth I longed to uncover and to unleash a torrent of secrets I never anticipated would clash against my fragile hopes. My heart raced as I took a step back, bumping into Ethan, who spun to face me. Those eyes that had always offered me solace now reflected a shared dread. We need to get out of here, he urged urgently. But the glimmers of shadows continued to twist and writhe closer, darkness threatening to overtake the last embers of light between us. My breath quickened, realization dawning. The past was rising to meet us, and there'd be no avoiding this confrontation. In that moment, I understood that not only had I sought the truths of my mother's sacrifices, but, unknowingly, I had awakened the very shadows that had entangled both our fates. As chaos threatened to consume us, all I could think was that if we didn't confront this together, the love ignited in the face of uncertainties could very well be extinguished by the shadows of the past, the true cost of knowing the binding shadows entwined within our lives. The shadows twisted around us like a living entity, the threat of something ancient and malignant holding us captive. I could feel Ethan's presence beside me, a grounding force amidst the chaos, though I knew it would take more than comfort to lift us from this darkness that threatened to swallow us whole. I could feel the pounding of my heart in my throat, an incessant drum urging me to confront what lay ahead, to reconcile the truth with the love I held for my mother, for myself. Leah, listen to me, Ethan urged, his voice low and firm, cutting through the clamor of uncertainty. We can't let this thing dictate what we do. We have to stand together. I nodded, granting his words the weight of their truth. It was the very connection I sought to uphold, not just to my past, but to the choices that were my own. I straightened, my resolve emerging from the wreckage of fear that had tried to seize me moments before. Maybe, I began, my voice steadier than I felt, maybe the shadows have come to show us something, not just threaten us. They're warning us, Leah, Ethan insisted, his eyes darting back to the swirling dark mist that loomed threateningly. We don't know what they want. His fear was palpable, but somewhere within me, the call of my mother's truth urged me to move forward. The journal's words echoed poignantly in my mind, we cannot escape the past. If this shadow carried the weight of my mother's secrets, perhaps understanding it was our only path to reclaiming the light we sought. No! I shouted, my voice rising above the chaos, a cry rooted in unwavering intention. We're not going to be afraid of what's come to meet us. I want to know what you've hidden, what you've kept from me. The swirling darkness paused, almost as if it were contemplating. Ethan reached for my hand, but I squeezed his tight, holding him firm against the seeping anxiety. Stay with me, I urged, my gaze returning to the swirling shadows that had now shrunk back, less threatening, less sinister. Their form flickered, revealing glimpses of memories, flickers of my mother, moments of laughter and pain intertwined. Each memory breathed with a life of its own, carving a path through the shadows and into the fabric of love that connected us all. You chose the way of sacrifice, Mother, I murmured, feeling the weight of her spirits nestled beneath my skin. But your love lives through me. The shadows pulsed around Ethan and me, revealing flashes of the past, my mother in her quiet moments, hands poised over a canvas, paint strewn across the floor, her laughter mingling with the gentle brush of the ocean breeze. It became evident that she had made choices not out of fear alone, but from a desire to protect, to foster a legacy, even amid uncertainty. Look, Ethan whispered, pointing to an unseen inflection building within the darkness, a crack of light breaking through, dispelling waves of apprehension, illuminating my mother's essence. There's something there. I leaned forward, heart hammering, and peered deeper into the unfolding scene, where the whisper of her dilemmas began to unravel like a tapestry, whispering secrets of sacrifice and heartache intertwined. In the distance, a figure emerged, my mother, standing at the cliff's edge, a place I now recognized from the drawing in her journal. Her silhouette danced against a backdrop of turbulent waves that crashed violently below, the embodiment of every choice that had ever tethered her to fear. Mom! I called out, an urge pushing me toward her, but fear held me momentarily against the threshold that separated the realms of our existence. I could feel her presence beckoning, could sense the energy surging with the weight of love, even if the resolutions to past pains were hidden behind those layers of sacrifice. Leah? Her voice drifted through the air, soft yet filled with the depth of longing. You have come to seek the truth, but understand that the heart can be burdened by choices made in love. Tears stung my eyes, the longing to bridge the gap between our worlds overwhelming. But Mom, why didn't you tell me? Why did you choose to carry your pain alone? Her figure shimmered like a mirage within the shadows, struggling against the tides of the past, the pain that permeated the space around us. Because I loved you, Leah. I thought that protecting you meant shielding you from the weight of my decisions, from the inevitability of loss that shadows us all. I wanted to be your light, never your burden. But your truth is a part of me, I cried, vulnerability spilling from the very depths of my being. Can't you see that hiding from your past only left me in the shadows of your silence? The scene around us seemed to pulse in empathy, shifting in a way that suggested understanding, her presence merging with the light of truth burgeoning before us. It was as if the sincerity in my voice resonated with what the shadows ultimately sought. It revealed a powerful arc of compassion, the willingness to confront the dimming of light in our stories rather than clinging only to the darkness. Ethan stepped closer alongside me, his supportive warmth wrapping around like a shield. I could feel his spirit intertwining with mine in an unbreakable bond. We are here for you, he offered gently, a sanctuary in the darkness. We want to stand with you together. As his words hung in the air, I was filled with fierce determination, acknowledging my mother's truth while embracing my own. Here was the moment, the fulcrum pivoting my past and present, the unmistakable awareness that I no longer needed to shadow my mother's choices or distance her love. In that defining breath, clarity swept through me, the shadows receded like reluctant ghosts, and I took a step forward, emboldened. "Mom, it's time," I called into the churning depths of memories, hoping my unwavering call would reach the core of her essence. Time to let go, time for us to move forward together. The shadows stirred one last time, forming into a protective embrace, weaving memories and emotions into their fabric, before unraveling into a brilliant cascade of light around us. My mother's figure shimmered, a radiant vision of love tempered by the realities of loss, a cycle of sacrifice leading to acceptance. "I am proud of you," her voice echoed, filled with love and understanding. "In confronting what binds us, we reclaim our pasts to illuminate our futures. You are never alone, our fates are intertwined, no matter the distance or shadows that remain." With a rush of warmth enveloping me, her essence began to dissolve into silver threads, stitching together the tapestry of connections in my heart. I felt the shadows lift, leaving a warm glow in their wake. My breath came fast, the emotional weight finally released, and I turned to face Ethan, those bright, steady eyes shining back with conviction, brimming with reassurance. "Did you see that?" I stammered breathlessly, my heart thumping with uncontainable energy. "She's free now, she's free." "I saw her," he whispered, a breath of awe mingling with pride. "And so are you." And as he took me in his arms, I felt the threads of love that connected us were now stronger, woven through shared histories, sacrifices transformed, and incandescent hope. The shadows lingered, but didn't hold sway over us. They had spoken, and in their revelations, they had woven my past into a future poised to embrace whatever lay ahead together. And in that moment of clarity and connection, I stood resolute, ready to step forward into whatever awaited us, knowing that beneath the shadows, love was the light guiding our way. As we turned toward the doorway, hand in hand, I felt a profound shift stirring in my heart, a new chapter unfurling before us as we were finally ready to embrace the melody of our intertwined journeys with tenderness and acceptance. And that was the first note of our symphony, a reminder that even in darkness, the light of love can transform shadows into freedom.